test on one day. India, England, Australia. What a player, what a player, what a player.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of What a Player. I am Sanjay Dubey with Concussion Subsuman with me. Right, to light up our What a Player YouTube channel, we have a sports presenter and a commentator who doesn't need any introduction at all. He's also a quiz wizard, RJ. He's been into advertising, brand equity quiz national level winner, none other than Gautam Bhimani. Gautam, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I just love the term concussion sub. It just makes you feel that you're with it, in with the times, and I think it's just too cool.
Excellent. You've got an absolutely brilliant shirt, and we were having a chat just before this session that you had this for your Holi day. Talking of Holi, you put a picture out on Twitter which went viral. A certain Wasim Akram, who's also got trolled by his wife for wearing the shorts come boxers or whatnot. Tell us something about that story, the whole day of Pakistani team celebrating Holi in Bangalore and that brilliant test match. Tell us something about it.
Well, I think it's just one of those when you pick out all your cricketing memories, this one has to be right up there. I mean, despite and this was even before I'd started covering cricket. So I've got enough in those 20 years plus. But this was the day after my ICSE. Just finished my board exams. I'd obviously had a few distractions because we had a Calcutta test, India-Pakistan just before that. And some of the players had come home. So those 2 days I was allowed to not study, then focus on boards. And after the last board, my dad said, okay, treat for you. Next day we fly to Bangalore, which happened to be day one of the test match. And he was flexible because he was writing the game. So he was flexible that he didn't have to be in a commentary box. So we got on the flight. So the first experience started on the flight itself, where an Indian Airlines pilot, I mean, those days we imagined that there were guys, faceless guys who didn't have a sense of humor, unlike now. And this pilot actually was like, so welcome aboard Indian Airlines flight, whatever, Calcutta to Bangalore. For those of you going for the test match, well, let me give you a quick score update. And remember, there was no Hotstar, no watching it live, nothing. So quick update. And Pakistan have actually lost 6 wickets for under 40 runs. So if you're going for the test match, you'll enjoy it. If you're not going for the test match, I suggest change your plans and go to the Chinnaswamy Stadium. So he had a sense of humor and we were all super excited. By the time we landed, got to the hotel and headed to the ground post-lunch, they had started recovering. And they did recover to a halfway decent score. But the wicket had already started showing signs of wear on the second day. And by the time we got around to Holi, which was the rest day, India weren't in a great position. But we didn't care. I was having fun at the hotel because I had a badge around me which said Member Pakistan Cricket Team. And the reason for that was because Dad and I had turned up late. And it's heavy security, you can imagine. India, Pakistan, same hotel. Because there was no place in the Indian team wing, and there was a room free for us in the Pakistan team wing, they just asked the Pakistan team manager, are you okay if this journalist and his son use one of the rooms there? And my dad's got as many friends in Pakistan, if not more, than he's had in India. So right from Imran to the rest of the management, they said, of course, they're more than welcome. Only thing is I had to walk around with this badge. So my first thrilling moment happened was when some young kid came up to me, and not that I was any older than a kid, saying, excuse me, sir, can I have your autograph, please? So I'm like, why? And I realized I'm wearing this badge. And those days, kids didn't know everybody. They used to walk around with these little souvenir books where you had mug shots of players. So obviously everyone knows Imran, they know Javed Miada, they know all the big Indian players. But there were a few unknowns in that. So there was a guy called Salim Jaffer, left-arm fast bowler. So if you ever Google a picture of Salim Jaffer, mugshot, imagine a tiny mugshot like this. This guy by elimination said, this dude must be Salim Jaffer. He was nowhere to be seen around the hotel. So he said, sir, you are Salim Jaffer, aren't you? And I'm thinking, should I just break his heart or not? Like, what the hell? I just signed some scribbly signature. And so that was my one big thrill moment. But then came the rest day. And early morning, I get a knock on the door at 7 in the morning. which, as I told you, I'm not a morning person. So even on Holi, it's too early for me. I open the door. It's Abdul Qadir outside. He's saying, "Is your father in?" So I said, he's still sleeping. Look what your Indian team has done to me. So some Indian team guys had knocked on his door and put gulal, abir, that's it, dry color on his face, and he got traumatized. And I'm thinking, no, I told him, don't worry, Qadir bhai, it's all fine. You just have to wash it off. It'll go away. Acha, theek hai. 10 minutes later, I see commotion. More of them are knocking at more doors. They knocked at our door also. Then they realized, oh, it's you. You can come later. They pulled out Pakistani players one at a time, took them to the pool and chucked them in. No question of waiting for that. Thoda abir, gulal, tricolor. After that, all no holds barred battle, just like a true India-Pakistan match having started. By the time we reached there around 9 o'clock, everybody was in the pool. We got pulled into the pool. Entire pool was purple. It was proper, genuine, bad, holy color. Only person left was Imran. Imran had a cottage of his own. A couple of guys climbed in through the window of the bathroom and pulled him out, brought him in, chucked him in. It was insanity. You can imagine there's a set of apartments that overlook the West End pool in Bangalore. So people who were privileged to that had the best seat in the house. So there were about 100 people on the rooftop of their apartment block watching, cheering, shouting, because they're just watching India and Pakistan play Holi, which you cannot buy tickets to also. And then, of course, I had met Wasim bhai a few days earlier at my house. He had come over. And this time around, I got to again say, hi, remember me? I'm Gautam Bhimani's son. He said, of course. Yeah. I bowled a ball at you, and not many years later, he bowled to me in the nets. But at that time, he had bowled with a tennis ball in my room, just for fun. We played for about 5 minutes. And then we took that picture. And I dug out that picture after so many years. But the overall thing, BCCI was sent a fat bill by Taj. They were not happy. Can you imagine? An entire 5-star hotel pool destroyed effectively. But it was a memory for a life for everybody. Every player, you ask them about it. Sunny, of course, remembers it because a day later, despite everything, all that Holi he played, he made 96. Greatest innings most people remember of his. For me, definitely his best. And I've watched him score a double as well.
Oh, great. Absolutely great story. I was reading through the Twitter comments. Someone said that, did you ask permission from Wasim? Because he had a very shy sort of look. Okay, yeah, I'll pose for a photograph.
Lots of people actually trolled me from both sides, saying that how could you do this? He will sue you. He will do this to you. And to a few people, I did reply that, of course, the first thing I did in the morning is sent the picture to him. He loved it. He said, go for it. He himself tweeted later. Then, of course, Shanira came into the picture and she was like, I wake up in the morning and I see my husband in underpants. So I sent her a message also saying, Shanira, those were not underpants, but I'm sure you've seen better. Not on Twitter. That I sent to her personally.
On our Facebook group, somebody posted that picture. I hadn't seen the story. They just posted the picture. And then the comments started coming in, happy Holi and things like that. And one of the guys comes in and says, oh, Wasim Akram looks like he's with Gilchrist playing the Holi. So you were looking like a little bit of a Gilchrist.
Wow.
Yeah.
There goes my Salim Jaffer bubble.
Brilliant, Gautam. I wanted to ask you something about this story where you went for a quiz, I think, because you wanted to win a CLO car as a prize money. Tell us a bit about that story.
Well, that's basically the story that ended up giving me my my future career. Because while you have heard about, Wasim Akram and the Holi picked story and all that happened before I had anything to do with the game. I grew up with the game thanks to my dad. From the age of 6, I used to watch Test match cricket, and it was in my DNA. I used to play in the backyard, only child, so I would play. I would be alone. I've played full Test matches from morning till night, playing for every player in the world by just chucking the ball at the wall and playing a shot. If I get out, I get out. I have a scorebook. I would write. I would have lunch breaks for 40 minutes specifically, and then tea time. I would get the staff to serve me tea, and then when the light would fade, I would say, "Okay, it's stumps," and I'd go back. All this I had to do alone. But growing up, I joined advertising. I was in advertising in J. Walter Thompson for a good 6 years. And at that time, quizzing was my passion. Still is. You could not keep me away from any quiz, business quiz, sports quiz, general quiz, anything. And there was this brand equity quiz, and I used to like it because it was brand equity, but it was not hardcore. Derek O'Brien used to make sure there were kind of questions you could work out. So however hardcore the answer, when you hear the answer, you're like, oh, that's it. I should have got it. Rather than, huh? So it's always my thing. Whenever I've conducted quizzes, I've always been that key word should never be, huh? But anyways, we had a good time on this brand equity quiz. First prize was a car. I was super excited. The CLO, it had just been launched recently, about 6 months earlier. And we got through the Calcutta round, which was huge. Calcutta was the most competitive. 3 national champions, former national champions on stage with us, just in the Calcutta prelims. So we beat them, reached the Bombay round where there were 8 teams. So 8 of the top teams out of 500 have got to Bombay. Televised round on Star Plus, and we get through the first semi-final. So we are down to the final 4. Ambience Mumbai, HTA Calcutta, Mudra Chennai, and I think it was Times of India Ahmedabad. I'm not sure of the 4th team, but they were from Ahmedabad. These 3 I remember because that was the order of 1, 2, 3. And towards the end, there was one question that we kind of should have got but didn't get. He was a little mean to us. For anyone who's in New York, it was a New York-related question because the question was, they showed a picture of Garry Kasparov playing chess with Viswanathan Anand. I actually said it the other day. I told the story saying it was Karpov, and I was quickly corrected by a chess fiend saying it was actually Kasparov and Anand playing on the roof of the World Trade Center. And Derek said, identify the venue. And I just went for the buzzer, plus minus. And I said, Manhattan, New York. And he gave me -10. And I said, but it is Manhattan, New York. He said, boss. He says boss sometimes, even if he knows you. This is a business quiz, boss. You have to tell us World Trade Center. Every question has some business connect. I'm like, you said venue, I gave venue. But anyway, we had to suck it up. Kind of dipped our mood for the next 5 minutes. We lost our momentum, ended up coming 3rd. So no CLO, no trip to Europe for a week, which Mudra Chennai got. Instead, it was a trip to Singapore that I got as 3rd prize. Took that trip up, went to the ESPN Star Studios to cut a long story short. And that's where I met my future boss-to-be. So moral of the story is not sometimes, very often, even in defeat, you can get victory.
So Gautam, you said you're quite passionate about quizzing. So with your dad's influence, would cricket commentary or, being involved in cricket always something at the back of your mind?
Yes and no. It was yes to the extent that I would do it only as a hobby. As I said, I told you about my nutty ways I used to play cricket in my own backyard. I would also get a little tape recorder and randomly press record. Sometimes I wiped out some of his precious stuff and just randomly record something. Just anything. I would just be 9 years old and I'd either put a TV on mute as and when we got a TV, or just in my head do 5 minutes of commentary. Not because I'm thinking, okay, one day maybe I'll have this and show it to somebody and it'll be a stepping stone to that. I never envisaged working in the game. I saw my dad do it. I thought, wow, it's wonderful. Travel the world, write about it, get to meet players, get to know players, get to have the best players in the world coming home. And I said, I never thought to myself that I could also do this. Once I finished college, I was like, okay, a job is meant to be something else. So a job could be banking, a job could be advertising. And that's where it started. For 6 years until that quiz happened, I had no aspiration as such towards becoming a cricket journalist. I tried it once, 1994. When I came back from college, before I started advertising, I went to cover the Australasia Cup in Sharjah. Just because my dad said, go, you want to try it out? I went, enjoyed it, had a good time. But it didn't attract me because it was print that time. So it wasn't that, okay, I have to do this. I came back, did a few copy tests, and next thing I was in a job.
It's slightly cliched question, Gautam. I'm sure you've been asked this many times. Coming from a non-cricketing background, in a sense, not playing international cricket at all, does that mean you have to be constantly on your toes? Because these days you see everyone's had some international cricketing background at all, etc. So how much pressure that puts on to you?
Well, yes and no. It does put pressure when you're in an environment where people are a little close-minded. And when I say close-minded, it's those who feel that in order to become a commentator, you have to have played the game, which is a load of bollocks. Absolutely. Which is no disrespect to the players who have then made the transition to the commentary box. It simply means you need a combination of a caller and an expert, which is our jargon in commentary, or lead and color, which is also jargon. But to put it in simple terms, it's one professional broadcaster and one professional cricketer who get together and provide the perfect commentary team. Because my job as a commentator is not to analyze Virat Kohli's technique. I might, over a couple of cold beverages in the evening with some friends, but as a professional, my job is to make the gentleman next to me who's played the game look better, to come out, to ask him the right questions, and for me to be able to say the right lines and say the right words. If I see that, for me, it's just about, oh, crest through the covers, pause. That's it. I'm just setting the tone, the ambience, the words, and he takes over and says, okay, this is how he got it. Look at that. Look at how his head was not tilted. Look at how his head was over the ball when he hit it through the covers. That's the combination you have to have. It's not that I don't know that that's what he did. And it's not that the gentleman next to me can't use a word like arrest. But it's just that you have your own little roles to play. And that's what makes it. All other sports you look at, motor racing, football, tennis, all of them, the guys who take the lead are not necessary. In fact, 99% of the time, they are not ex-players. Dan Maskell, one of the greats of Wimbledon, wasn't exactly a Wimbledon champion. He would do commentary with a Wimbledon champion. Same with all the football commentators that you hear in the Premier League or Formula One. So that's the way it should be. So yeah, just to sort of answer your question, intimidated at times, yes. But if I know that I have a role to play and I have the respect of my co-commentator, which I have developed over the years, then it should not matter. But yes, I have to try extra hard because there are many people who don't believe it's, the right for anyone who's not played the game.
Yeah, that's a great tip, especially for likes of us who are chatting with a bunch of celebrities and cricketers. It is our job to just ask the question, have them come out and explain the story as opposed to we trying to be them and falling on our face. I think that's a fantastic tip, Gautam, for folks who are watching.
Yeah, I think just to complete it, I think it's like a good umpire. An umpire is there almost as yes, a guardian of the game, but you will not necessarily remember an umpire who's done a brilliant job at the end of the day, unless you consciously sort of look at like a Nitin Menon in this last series, the entire series. He's outstanding. I think he's easily close to being the best in the world. But the first image that comes to mind isn't like, okay, Pant played well, Besto played well, Nitin Menon umpired well. No, you don't think of that. Because he did so well, he fades into the background, which is how it should be. If someone gives a few howlers, you will remember. We all remember Steve Buckner. Love him or hate him, you'll never forget him, whether it's his style of umpiring or some of the really bad decisions he's given. But you may not necessarily have remembered him so much if he had not given some bad decisions.
Great stuff. Okay, switching gears, you've been to Lord's Long Room, and we've been told and we read that it's a formal setup, but looks like you pulled off a blue jacket, pink shirt, and yellow tie. How did you pull that off?
Well, not just that. I'm glad you managed to mention that particular photograph of mine. It was not as much about how I dressed. As long as you have a jacket and a tie, they don't really care what the jacket and the tie is. They're, in fact, the MCC, the official MCC tie and the MCC jacket are the loudest things you can get. Much louder than the shirt of mine, trust me. I've always wanted to get my hands on that jacket. From the time I saw it as a child, the first time I went to Lord's at the age of 12 during the 83 World Cup, I saw a few members wearing that. And I'm like, I want that. And I was told that unless you're an MCC member, you cannot have it. So I do possess an MCC tie given to me by a member, but I'm not ever supposed to wear it at Lord's. I'll be like thrown out. Anyway, but coming back to that, to me, the special part of being in that long room was not as much about what I wore, but the fact that I pulled off a coup and did a story on it. Nobody had done a story on it before. I just asked the question. I said, listen, we see players walking through the long room. Why do we not get to see it? You always see the two batsmen emerging from those two doors and onto the field past that little fence. Why do we not see more of that? You're not supposed to shoot in there. I said, well, is there a rule? Has someone said so? Is it part of the British Constitution? I mean, can I go and ask the Queen? What's the deal here? So they say, very funny. No. I'm sure Her Majesty wouldn't mind, but she wouldn't quite entertain your question. But anyway, I said, no, honestly, I really, really would like to do a story on it, because I can't just keep covering people drinking beer at the nursery end all the time. And the museum's done, and the real tennis bit is done. And so they said, let me ask the question. So about 12 questions were asked to different people, and they said, all right, go ahead. So I went ahead and I literally did a story. I went into the dressing room and I said, I took a bat in my hand and I said, the journey of a batsman at Lord's from this dressing room to the middle is like no other in any other ground in the world. And this is not about being an Anglophile or saying Lord's is home of cricket. I think it's the best place to watch cricket in the world. And this is despite me being very happy, very proud to be Indian, love my Indian grounds. But Lord's has something about it that, as I said, not being an Anglophile, but it still is. Walking down those steps into the long room, emerge through those doors, it's a feeling like no other. And I've experienced it just with no one around, with just a bat in hand. I can imagine someone who's making his test debut at Lord's walking down those stairs. There's no way they'd be able to, their feet wouldn't shake, their goosebumps wouldn't come up, and they wouldn't have an extra 20% to put out there when they go out. And I did that story, and it went on air, and I had friends from Sky who actually came up and said, nice job. Next thing I see a season later, there's a live camera in that long room. So now if you watch live cricket, you can actually see a camera and they cut to a batsman walking out. It hadn't happened before. I'm not saying I was necessarily responsible, but certainly things changed after they realized that, well, if he can, so can they. Nothing wrong. So it was a breakthrough.
I want to quickly mention something. Fortunately, I had the privilege of being in the long room for a corporate event. This was in one of the winter days, and you can see the media center in the background. And as you mentioned, some of these things in Lord's is quite unique. Like you can carry alcohol from outside, but you cannot carry a flag. So it's bizarre, but yeah, it is fascinating.
I love those corporate events. By the way, since you've been to one, sensational. I did a charity event which I hosted for Yuvraj. He had it at the long room there. And that was only the second time I entered the long room. The first time was when I did my story. And I think 4 months later, we did this charity event, which I co-hosted with Nasser Hussain. It was unbelievable. Just, again, the feeling of seeing it in the evening with an empty Lord's, the media center, and the back the other side. This was autumn. It wasn't quite winter, but it still had a very different feel about it.
Excellent stuff. So you, in your career, you won many awards. You must have got many prizes and things like that. But getting an award from APJ Abdul Kalam, is that the pinnacle? Talk to us about it. What did you get from him and why?
It has to be. And again, the drama in which I got the announcement, again, comes back to cricket. Of course, the award has a lot to do with whatever I had done in cricket and other sport. So first and foremost, it was my surprise because I had attended these ceremonies before, the Ramnath Goenka Award for Excellence in Journalism, which a lot of it has to do with going that extra step, bravado. So a typical person who'll get it is some news reporter who's gone to the Kargil war front and covered it from the bunker and stuff like that. And there were people like that who won it alongside me. And there is, of course, a category in sport. And for me, it was purely about, the inscription was going to an area of sport where not many others have, and presenting cricket in a different light, and being brave enough to face Wasim Akram in the nets, just to throw that one in. But really, this was 2007, first time ever cricket was being broadcast on Star Cricket. Right, that time there was Star Sports, ESPN, everything, but the channel Star Cricket was being launched in that particular series. And the first ever ball was bowled in the match between India and Sussex at Hove, tour game, where there's myself, Graham Fowler, Sunil Gavaskar, Ian Bishop, 4 of us doing commentary. Then we moved to game number 2, which was at Chelmsford, India versus England A. And we had Farooq Engineer and Graham Gooch added to the commentary ranks, which was, again, a huge thrill. I've known Farooq Engineer since I was a kid, but doing commentary alongside him, and Graham Gooch was a revelation. Nobody had tried him as a commentator till then. Gooch and Boycott, great combo. Boycott's always done commentary. Bob Willis has, Ian Botham has, David Gower has, but Gucci is a great player, 3-3-3 and all that, but people thought he couldn't speak. So they never allowed him, not allowed, but they never really saw him as a commentator. We just, because it was Chelmsford, that's his home ground, our producer just called up Gucci and said, would you like to come and do some commentary? He was so good. He was drafted into the team for the first test. And ever since then, he's been not quite mainstream because I guess he chose not to, but he was a revelation. So on day 2, I'm on a stint with Gucci next to me, and I get this call. Obviously, we don't take phones when we are in the middle of a commentary stint, but I saw 19 missed calls from an India number, and I'm like, okay. So I quickly ran out after the stint and called it back, and this lady said, oh, I'm from Indian Express, and we want to let you know that you won this award. And I was, of course, thrilled, this, that, and the other, and said, the President of India will be presenting it. And I was like, yes, day after tomorrow. And my heart sank. I was like, this is the biggest award of my life, and I will not be able to get it. That is awful. My mind started racing. Here I am in Chelmsford, Lord's Test starting in 7 days' time. So there's no question. I mean, I can't exactly jet back. What am I, some jet set? No. But I did. I made a decision that night that I called up my travel agent. I said, listen, you need to buy me a ticket in reverse, as in from London to Delhi and Delhi to London, literally for 12 hours. That's it. And I did. I finished my last stint on day 4 of the game, jetted to the airport from Chelmsford, got onto a flight with no luggage because I had enough at home. Nothing, no luggage, just a handbag. It felt so strange. I don't think I've ever taken an international flight. I'm a horrible flyer. I must have taken 2,000 flights in my life, but I'm a terrible packer and a terrible traveler in that sense. I always pack too heavy. But that time, one backpack, nothing else. Land there, quick night's sleep. Next morning, do the award ceremony and take the night flight back to London in time for the Lord's Test. But yeah, the drama in which it happened was brilliant. And of course, getting the award and, getting to meet all those people over there and just getting recognition for doing something different was what felt so good about it.
Outstanding. Congratulations for that.
Was that also the famous Ganguly Dravid test match, wasn't it? 96?
No.
Was it the
2007?
Oh, 2007 one. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
For some reason, I thought that's the...
No, I wish it was that. No, 96, his debut. I was there at Lord's. I watched him make his debut. I watched that 100. But then I went more because it was my classmate doing it since we were in school together. And it was a big thrill when I heard he's making his test debut, and special treat for me again after that ICSC treat. Dad said, listen, your buddy is making his test match debut, taking you to Lord's. So I watched that match as a friend, sitting there all 5 days of it. So that was different. That was still 4.5 years before I started working on the game.
Excellent. So you do a lot of commentary now in the Caribbean Premier League. You're like, if I have to put an analogy, what Tony Gray was to Sri Lanka, maybe you are to the Caribbean Premier League now. Is that a fair statement? How did you get involved?
I'd love to think of it like that. Yeah. Well, I would probably not take that moniker because Danny Morrison has that much more than me. Because he is as much part of that league as anybody else. But they love him everywhere. But yeah, the one common factor I've seen even before I joined, and I'm in my 5th year now of CPL. When CPL started, I think it was 2014 or 15. So one of the common factors from day one has been Danny, and of course all the locals as well. But that is insane. It's the best way to watch cricket. I can tell you that. I mentioned Lord's a few minutes ago. Lord's is a pilgrimage, but the Caribbean is the ultimate destination to watch cricket. So your life is really, a cricketing life is incomplete if you haven't watched a test at Lord's and a match in the Caribbean. Everything else, And maybe, okay, I'll add one more to it. And a match in Newlands in Cape Town, purely for the breathtaking beauty. But the one in Newlands can be dispensed with because that you can also go when the stadium is empty. I'm not saying you have to have watched a match there. It's not about the match. It's just about standing in the middle of that ground and seeing Table Mountain and the breathtaking beauty. So that's just like going to a beautiful place. But Caribbean, it's with the crowds, with the people, the way they understand, appreciate the game, just as much as if they are 1 or 9 runs down. It doesn't matter. They have a deep understanding and appreciation and love of the game, and Lords is Lords.
Surprised you didn't mention Eden Gardens, being a Calcutta boy.
Yeah, well, I must confess, as I said, I'm sitting very much in Calcutta right now. That's where I watched my first cricket ever, my first test match ever. And it is special. No doubt about it. It is special. The only reason I don't keep harping on about it is because it's sad that the quality of the spectators is not the same. It's not what it was. When I watched the test match in the 1970s, you'd go there. It was an event. It was a picnic. It was not just about the fact that there'd be someone 2 seats away smoking a pipe and that pipe smoke wafting around and everyone has got their picnic baskets and opening different food, sharing it around, cricket conversation. If there was a toss for a test match in the 70s, the stadium would have 90,000 people in before the first ball is bowled because you didn't want to miss the toss. Toss is nothing. You can't see it. It's far away. But it was just the dedication to the game. People don't care now. I mean, I've watched IPL games there. I've watched test matches there after that. I've covered cricket there finally in 2008. Didn't have that same feeling of everybody there loves the game. There are a lot of people who are just there for whatever reason. So that is why I took a few points away from it. But otherwise, as an arena, it's still very much right up there.
Before we move on to quiz, Gautam, quickly, what's your fitness regime? How do you look so young and fit after all those years?
There is none. I wish I had some secret to say, some secret recipe, a particular kind of green juice that I drank that kept me going. Nothing like it. I have no restrictions on food, no restrictions on drink, and whether it's quantity or quality, it's just metabolism, pure metabolism, which I'm just blessed with. So I wish I could attribute it to somebody. I once had a test done in the States when I was studying there in college. And I said, listen, how do I put on weight? And, I joined a class. I did all sorts of things. They put certain amount of food in me for a fortnight and said, scientifically, you have to have put on 7 pounds by now. I didn't put on 1 ounce. Sorry, I'm using pounds and ounces because that's the only memory of America. But yeah, I did nothing gained. And they said, enjoy it while it lasts. Those days, they told me that when you turn 35, this metabolism will start coming down. And then you start putting on weight. Well, 35 has come and gone a few days ago. And it still hasn't changed. So I'll enjoy it till it lasts.
Long may that continue. Right, Gautam. So this quiz is going to be very simple for your standards. So I'm trying to set you up. You have got very simple questions. So I'm sure you'll get all of them. We'll start with this first one. You ready? Who wrote the book Shaker, Runmaker, Wicket Taker?
Oh dear. Sounds very familiar. Not Ian Botham, is it?
One more shot. Your friend wouldn't like this if you don't get this one. Think left field.
I give up. Pass.
That's Lisa.
I have to apologize to Lisa. I hope she's not listening to this, not watching this. I much apologize, Lisa. Love that picture in the Hall of Fame, but which reminds me now I need to go and pick up a copy of that.
Excellent.
These quizzes can be very embarrassing, I can tell you.
Right. Following on from that, so Lisa Sthalekar was the 4th woman to be inducted in the Hall of Fame. Can you name who were the first 3 before her?
Would one of them be Belinda Clark?
Yeah.
Oh dear. I can see I'm running out of time.
Take your time. That's fine.
Yeah. Well, I was going to go. Again, Mel will kill me for that. Karen Rolton, I was coming to at some point in time, but I had not banked on Mel yet. See how we take people we love and know for granted, because Mel and Lisa have both spent time both in the Caribbean and in other leagues. We've done commentary together, so please edit this part out in case they ever see this.
These are tough ones. To your credit, these are tough ones.
These days, I promise you, I like conducting quizzes much more than I like taking part in them, because at that time, the brand equity time, you couldn't keep me away from a single quiz. Nowadays, you give me an option because we've got a lot of quiz groups we're with, and they're like, anyone who's hosting next week, and I'll try and put my hand up only because it escapes me trying to go, oops, forgotten that pass. Anyway.
We'll have some half volleys, hopefully, the next couple of ones. Right. Which Indian batsman has the highest test average? Minimum 1,000 runs, not 10,000.
Vinod Kamble.
You absolutely remember that. We knew you would get this.
Oh, I like the picture as well.
Yeah.
So the next one, who is the only cricketer to have featured in all the World Cups between 1975 and 1996? And your answer is, you would know this.
Venkatragavan?
No. Think of someone from the neighborhood.
Dulip Mendes?
No. Pakistani cricketer?
Javed Miadad.
Of course, yes.
Yes, of course. I knew about the longevity, but I somehow thought the count started after that in 79. Yeah, and I thought you were trying to put in a googly, because I've asked a few questions like that. The one question I remember asking was, who featured prominently at the same ground in 1979 and 1999 in such a span of... and it was Venkatragavan, who was Indian captain in 79, and he was an umpire in the 99 World Cup.
That's a good one. Right. The next one. Which two players have the most ducks in World Cup matches?
Most ducks in World Cup matches. This is an interesting one. World Cup matches. One would be Javed Miadad. I'm just trying to think left field. Played so many matches, and because you don't necessarily have chances for too many players. I mean, test match ducks are okay because ultimately a number 11 does come out to bat more often than not, but not always in a 50 or a 60 or a 55 over game. Danny Morrison, Bracewell.
No, so it's Nathan Astle and Ijaz Ahmed.
So I was on the right track initially. They're both batsmen.
Yeah.
So I got that half of it right. I just had no clue who the names were. Fine. Good one.
So sixth one, 2007 World Cup, India versus Pakistan, the bowlout, the famous bowlout. Who were the Indian bowlers to hit, strike, score, whatever you want to call it?
Bhaji, Viru, Robbie Uthappa.
Absolutely right.
And an interesting story about that one as well. So I've heard lots of questions about that. Of course, we've had Robin Uthappa as a guest on Crick Buzz, and we've had lots of fun about the way he doffed his cap, and he's told us the stories of how it came, because they actually had a contest internally where everyone practiced the bowl out. Because those days, they were not too sure about the format. Are we taking it seriously? Are we not taking it seriously? Then they said, okay, there's this thing called a bowl out. Whatever would ever happen. So everyone had a chance to do it. And basically, Bhaji, Viru and Robbie were hitting the stumps often more than the real bowlers would. So they said, if we ever do it, we're going to go with this. Why not? Doesn't mean you just have to hit the stump. It doesn't mean you have to do it with a full run-up. And Pakistan did just the opposite. They decided to send out regular bowlers and try and get them to bowl with their full action and everything. And here, there was a question asked about, I forget the phrasing completely. Dhoni basically stood behind the stumps and said something to the effect of, aim for my right shoulder, my left shoulder, something along those lines. So there was a quiz question that went, when did Dhoni say, please aim for me, or whatever, something to that effect? The answer was, he told these three bowlers, I'm going to be standing there. You look at me, aim for me, and obviously we'll get the stumps.
That's a great way to ask that question, yeah. This is an easy one. 2015 World Cup, which batsman had 4 consecutive centuries?
I have mind blocks about half these things. Wasn't Steve Smith, was it?
No, some left-hander, elegant left-hander.
For me, the more I'm part of a tournament, stats go absolutely out the window. Shikhar.
From Sri Lanka.
Who would have scored 4 consecutive hundreds? Sangha in 2015.
That's it.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's right.
I just completely forgot about his. Yeah. This is a strange part, by the way. Very interesting that you should put this up, and I had no qualms of saying I completely forgot, because there are people I know, including this guy, friend of mine, Abhideep, who's our producer at Crick Buzz. Now, I asked him the other day, honest to God, before our show started, I said, is this a disease? Are you normal? Are you okay? Because he knows everything about everything. Not because he's trying to show off anything. It's just that somehow it seems to have got embedded in his brain and it doesn't come out. So if we are doing a show and we are talking about that, he will sort of say, taking example of Sangakkara, we're doing a reference to left-handed batsman who scored prolifically in the last 6 years. So he'll say, yeah, okay, so I can tell you about Sangakkara. These were the 4 grounds that he made it. He made 102, 109, 116 and 114 against Australia, New Zealand, India and Bangladesh. Like, as I said, right now, I'm not even remembering that he made those 4 consecutive hundreds despite my being at that World Cup. But whether he's been there, not been there, whether before his time, after his time, some people just have the knack to have it embedded in their minds. And I feel embarrassed at times when, especially when sometimes you're sitting in a quiz with other people and like, okay, next round is cricket or next question is on cricket. And these guys like, come, I'm like, doesn't mean it's going to be easy for me. And they'll ask some question and they're both looking at me. I'm like, but you guys also follow the game. You also think. And then there'll be some obscure question on some Venezuelan plane crash, which I'll happily go and answer. But my cricket question I'll miss. So
I know. I think it's the best option is to be the quiz master, so you can prevent all that embarrassment. Listen, Gautam, this has been absolutely fabulous. We know you're a busy man, so thank you so much for doing this. We really appreciate your time.
Thanks, Gautam.
It's been so much fun. As I said, it's been a long time in the making. For everybody who's watching it now, this was supposed to have happened a long time ago, and each time it was my fault because I'd be like, okay, maybe not this Saturday, can we try for this Sunday? And then again I'd try out that Sunday, so each time it would not happen. But finally I could walk out with bat under my shoulder and say, okay, I'm making my debut finally on Waadaplaya, and I'm delighted to do so.
No, this the pleasure is ours. Thank you so much for your time. So, Suman, thanks to you for joining us. For all of viewers, if you happen to watch this, do give it a thumbs up. If you like our channel, do subscribe and check out for other contents you may like. And we'll see you another time, another show. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Gautam.
Bye-bye. Next time I'll practice my quizzing.